CKT coming at you with another video, guys. I hope y'all been enjoying the ones I've put out, and I hope you enjoy this one. This is the state of Tennessee versus Kenneth DeHart. He is going up for his arraignment there to see if it's going to be bound over to the grand jury. I hope y'all enjoy it. It's a pretty good trial. The video of the officer involved shooting with him is in the playlist there. I'm going to create one, the DeHart playlist, DeHart trial. So y'all enjoy. Have a good one.
We believe that we will be able to do a competent job. We're not saying that we aren't prepared, but we are saying that Mr. DeHart has the right to counsel of his choice. As far as I know, this is a case of first impression, because I have never in 50 years of practice had this come up to where a person wasn't given, in this county at least 2 weeks to hire a lawyer. In every court I've ever been in front of, including Your Honor numerous times, defendants are usually given a couple of 3 weeks to hire a lawyer. This case is as serious as any case can be. If he's able to hire a lawyer, I will not be surprised if it costs him in the neighborhood of $100,000. I don't know how many of us could come up with that kind of money at short notice if we were required to do that. So we suggest it's not unreasonable. He is in custody, he doesn't have a bond, he's not going anywhere. On top of which, we want to make sure that the public defender's office wants to make sure he gets a fair trial as possible. As Judge Delosier always said, quoting an authority that I've forgotten, justice not only must be done, it must also be seen to be done. We want to avoid any possibility of a post-conviction relief if he should get convicted. We want to make sure that all the process are properly complied with. He has said that he's able to, he or his family, I'm not sure which, is able to employ a lawyer. He would like to do that, and he would like to have a reasonable time to be able to do that. So with all due deference, we're asking Your Honor to continue this case for a week or two so that he can obtain counsel.
Your Honor, respectfully to Mr. Garner's motion, the state would oppose. I certainly understand the motion and where he's coming from. However, it has been 12 days since the alleged conduct that has brought us in here to court today. 5 of those days, the defendant was out of custody. The defendant and anyone on his behalf who might hire counsel was certainly fully aware during those 5 days out of custody that he was going to need an attorney. He has now been in custody 7 days. The court has given him adequate time to hire an attorney. In fact, attorneys have contacted my office, and I believe the public defender's office, about this case, and they have either declined to represent the defendant or they have not been able to reach terms with the defendant regarding their representation. So respectfully, he has very adequate counsel, very competent counsel. There are no attorneys in Blount County more experienced than Mr. Garner and Mr. Elrod. They have handled more cases like this than anyone. So respectfully, he has competent counsel. All the parties are prepared to go forward. He has been given adequate time by this court, which is all the law requires, to obtain an attorney of his choice. He has failed to do so. He has competent counsel. The state would ask that we move forward at this time.
Mr. Garner, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
The motion to continue is denied. Docket number CR 56020, State of Tennessee versus Kenneth Wayne DeHart Jr. Count 1, first-degree murder. Count 2, attempted first-degree murder. Count 3, possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. State's ready to call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Very briefly beforehand, in regards to count 3, the state has 3 exhibits that it will seek to introduce at this time. First, a certified copy of a Class C felony aggravated assault conviction from 2003. I have previously provided those to defense counsel, Your Honor. We'd ask that be Exhibit 1. Secondly, Your Honor, again, a certified copy of a conviction of the Class E felony of reckless endangerment involving a deadly weapon from 2006 Blount County Circuit Court. We'd seek to have entered as Exhibit 2. And then thirdly, Your Honor, a conviction from 2018 to a charge of aggravated assault, which was pled guilty to the lesser included offense of domestic assault in Blount County Circuit Court in 2018. We seek that as Exhibit 3.
May I please support? We have been given copies of these documents, and we will stipulate their admissibility for purposes of this hearing, but reserve the right to object to their admission at trial if we get there, if circumstances should arise that way.
Your Honor, with that, the state would call Deputy Shelby Eggers. Good morning. Will you state your name, please?
Shelby Eggers.
And will you spell your last name for the record?
Eggers.
Thank you. And where are you employed?
Blount County Sheriff's Office.
And what is your current position at the Blount County Sheriff's Office?
Deputy Sheriff, Zone Patrol,
And how long have you been with the Sheriff's Office?
almost 5 years.
Have you held positions with the Sheriff's Office prior to going to patrol?
Yes, sir.
What are those?
I worked in the jail. I worked adult correction.
When did you transition from corrections to patrol?
In August of 2022.
And did you have to undergo certain training in order to make that transition to patrol?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
I went through the Patrol Academy or the Post Academy.
And how long is that?
It's 13 weeks.
And when did you start that and finish that?
I began it, I believe it was August 15th of 2022. I graduated November 4th of 2022.
And just in general, not specifically, what all does the academy cover?
Essentially everything that you need to be a post-certified police officer in the state of Tennessee.
All right. Now, once you completed the academy, do they just immediately release you on patrol by yourself, or is there additional training involved?
No, sir. I had to go through 14 weeks of field training with a trained field training officer.
And what does that entail, just briefly?
Basic patrol duties, responding to calls, traffic stops, welfare checks, property checks, things of that nature.
And did you successfully complete that?
Yes, sir.
Since getting out on your own patrol and completing that, have you had any additional training that you've undergone regarding, your patrol activities?
Yes, sir. I attend 40 hours of in-service every year. I recently completed a class called ICAT. It's essentially a version of CIT, which is Crisis Intervention Training.
Okay. And Deputy Eggers, when you're on patrol, just in general, what are your job duties and responsibilities while you're on duty?
I respond to calls for service in my assigned zone or assigned zones. I do regular patrol on the streets, whether that's traffic enforcement, talking to people, things of that nature.
Now, are there different shifts that you all work while on patrol here at the Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir. So we have a first, second, and third shift. We work 10-hour shifts. First shift is scheduled from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Evening shift, which is my assigned shift, is scheduled from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. And night shift comes in at 8 p.m. and stays until 6 a.m.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned zones. What are zones? How does that work with patrol?
So we have 4 zones in Blount County. Blount County is split up basically into 4 quadrants. Zones 1 and 2 are the south end zones of the county, and zones 3 and 4 are the north end zones of the county.
And while you're on patrol, is there a way you all handle backup, or how is backup handled if you need additional officers or assistance while you're on patrol?
So our supervisors make our lineup and they assign us to a specific zone or set of zones it's different every day. I don't work the same zone every day. We'll have deputies assigned to each zone, and then we'll also have a county backup north, which covers the north end, zones 3 and 4, as I mentioned just earlier, and a county backup south that covers zones 1 and 2, as I mentioned earlier. We also sometimes have county-wide backup, which will be backup for the entire county.
Thank you. And if I could now please direct your attention to Thursday, February the 8th of 2024. Were you on duty on that date?
Yes, sir.
And I assume you were working, as you said, evening shift, second shift?
Yes, sir.
And did you have an assigned zone that day?
Yes, sir. I was assigned to County Zone 3.
And just in general, where is zone 3?
Seymour, Eagle, and Rockford, that area.
Okay. And what was your backup situation on that night, February the 8th?
So with it being Thursday, we had more people there than normal. Those are training days for our specialty units. So I actually had a partner assigned to Zone 3 with me, Deputy Amanda Fritz. We had a county backup north, and I cannot recall who that was. And then we had 2 county-wide backups who were Deputy Greg McCowan and Deputy Noah Bank.
While you were on duty on February the 8th, did you have reason to conduct a traffic stop on Sevierville Road?
Yes, sir.
And what type of vehicle was it that you stopped?
It was a silver Lexus SUV.
And do you know where on Sevierville Road this traffic stop occurred?
Occurred in the 4900 block in between Eagle Road and Destiny Lane.
And is that located in Blount County, Tennessee?
Yes, sir.
And do you know the approximate time of the traffic stop?
Around 2000 hours or 8 p.m.
8 p.m. And what was it that caused you to stop that vehicle? Did you observe or see anything?
Yes, so I came up behind the vehicle. I first observed the vehicle swerving inside its lane, so it didn't cross the double yellow or the fog line. It was kind of just going back and forth. Then I observed the vehicle go left of center over the double yellow line just a little bit. It did that for a moment, and then I observed the vehicle go all the way left of the center line to where the driver's side front tire was almost touching the white fog line on the opposite side of the road.
And is it that at that time that you activated your emergency lights?
Yes.
Okay. And did the vehicle stop?
Yes.
Where is it that it stopped initially?
In the center of its lane on Sevierville Road.
And is that an ideal place for a traffic stop? Why is that?
It's not safe for me or the person I stop. We can get rear-ended from behind by a car. I can get hit by a car out talking to them. So it's not an ideal location or safe location.
So what did you do when the vehicle stopped in the middle of the road?
I walked up to the driver's side window and I introduced myself to the driver as Shelby and told him that I worked for the Blount County Sheriff's Office and that I was going to ask him to pull into the driveway, which was just forward and to the left of where he had stopped in the road.
And did he do that initially?
Sort of, he pulled up, then he pulled horizontally across the driveway that I'd asked him to pull into, stopped in the yard, and the vehicle was still partially, it was kind of sitting on the fall line, but my vehicle was still all the way over.
So what did you do then?
I reapproached the vehicle again, spoke to the driver and asked him to pull into the driveway, which was in front of the driveway that I formerly asked him to pull into, and told him to pull in like he was going to the house.
And did he do so?
Yes.
And that driveway is still located in Blount County, I believe?
Yes.
All right. At that point in time, did you approach the vehicle and have a more in-depth conversation with the driver?
Yes.
How many people were in that vehicle? Just one. And the driver of that vehicle, do you know who that was?
Yes. It was the defendant, Kenneth.
Could you please identify him here today?
He's sitting in front of me.
Thank
Record reflect the witness identified the defendant.
Thank you. What did you do? Did you tell the defendant why you had stopped him?
Yes, sir.
What did you tell him?
I told him, I introduced myself again, and I let him know that I'd stopped him because he was all over the roadway.
All right. Now, to be fair, had you ever met the defendant, Mr. DeHart, before this day?
No, sir.
Did you have any prior knowledge whatsoever of the defendant before this interaction?
No, sir.
What did the defendant say in response when you told him why he had been stopped?
He told me that he didn't realize that he had swerved. He had been pulling his hair back, and he may have swerved in that, but he was so sorry he didn't realize that he had swerved.
Okay. Did you ask the defendant for his license, registration, proof of insurance, that sort of thing?
Yes.
And was he able to provide those?
Yes, he was able to retrieve his wallet from the floor, pull his driver's license out of his wallet. We were having a conversation, but he continually was talking. So he was distracted a bit, and it took him a moment to find the vehicle registration.
Did that seem at all at odd to you or indicate indicate anything to you or anything like that?
He was maybe upset or nervous about something because he was continually talking. He did not stop talking from the time that I approached the window to the time that everything happened.
All right. So you took his driver's license, correct?
Yes, sir, and he handed me the vehicle registration.
All right. Did you notice anything else or sense anything else at that time that caused you concern?
I observed the odor of marijuana at the driver's side window.
All right. So based on that, you've got his driver's license. Where do you go from there?
I go back to my vehicle so that I can check his driver's license status and see if he has any active warrants in any of our local counties.
And was his license valid?
His license was valid, he did not have any active warrants.
All right. What do you do while you're in the vehicle at this time?
I made a phone call to Deputy McCowan. We had already spoken back and forth over the radio, and I knew he was on his way to me. I called him on the phone just to give him a little bit more information of what I was dealing with. I let him know that I thought that I had an impaired driver and that I was possibly going to be doing SFSTs or standardized field sobriety tests with the driver.
So from an investigatory purpose, you're going to extend this traffic stop for what reasons based on your interaction with the defendant?
In order to determine whether the defendant was safe to operate a motor vehicle on a public roadway and to search the vehicle because of the odor.
All right, thank you. Did you eventually return to the vehicle and make contact with the defendant again?
Yes.
Now, how did you approach the vehicle this second time?
The second time I made a passenger side approach, it gave me a bit more of a tactical advantage. My eyebrows were kind of raised based off of his, he seemed to be nervous. So I made a passenger side approach as kind of an element of surprise.
At this point, are you yelling at the defendant or anything like that? All right. Did you tell the defendant sort of what your plan was from an investigation standpoint?
Yes.
What did you tell him?
I let him know that I needed him to step out of the vehicle in order for me to search it, and I let him know also that I had probable cause to search it due to the odor of marijuana.
And how did he respond to that?
He was not very happy about it. He became more defiant, I guess defensive.
All right. And at this point in time, is he on the phone with anyone that you could tell?
Yes, he was on the phone with, I believe, his grandmother.
All right. And what conversation, did you have a conversation with the grandmother?
I did originally. The grandmother and I and the defendant talked back and forth about the insurance. He was searching for the proof of insurance and the insurance cards. And she was the owner of the vehicle, so she was reassuring me over the phone. She did have insurance, and she must have just not put the new card in there. So we talked about that, and then I also explained to her why I needed the defendant step out of the vehicle.
And let me ask you, so was it pretty common for you to have asked Deputy McCowan to join you at this traffic stop? Would that be out of the ordinary at all?
No, typically, anytime a deputy makes a traffic stop, it's not necessarily that we have to ask for backup. We work with each other well enough to know that if somebody makes a traffic stop, somebody is going to try to back them up. Whoever's closest will come to them just as a measure of caution.
All right. So, were you able to convince the defendant to exit the vehicle voluntarily?
No, sir.
Did you continue to request him to do so?
Yes, sir.
And how did that conversation go?
I continued to kind of plead with him and ask him to get out of the vehicle, and I also let him know eventually, after talking to him for a few minutes, that if he did not willingly step out of the vehicle, that I was going to have to forcibly remove him from the vehicle.
All right. Let me ask you this: How big in your mind was the defendant? You know, how would you describe him?
I couldn't tell his height because he was seated in the vehicle, but probably 2 or 3 times my size. He's a bigger guy.
Yeah. Did Deputy McCowan eventually arrive on scene?
Yes.
And where did he park?
He parked his cruiser almost parallel to mine. That's mine.
And how did he approach the vehicle of the defendant where you were talking with him at?
He made a driver's side approach.
All right. And what did you do as Deputy McCowan approach the driver's side?
After the Deputy McCowan began speaking with the defendant, I walked in between the defendant's car and my patrol vehicle and stood next to Deputy McCowan, sort of towards the B panel of the vehicle.
And what is your conversation with the defendant like at this point?
I continually ask him to get out of the vehicle. I tell him this is his last chance. He's going to have to step out of the vehicle or I'm going to have to pull him out. And then we open the door and I attempted to get his seatbelt off.
So what is your first plan of action regarding removing him from the vehicle?
I plan to go hands-on. If I can use that approach, I like to. So my plan was to put my arm up sort of right about here. I guess it's easier with this on, right about here, so that I could hold him back from folding over the seatbelt and then reach across and unbuckle him to pull him out of the vehicle.
And were you able to successfully do that?
No, sir.
And why not?
He was able to grab a hold of my forearms and we just kind of tussled.
So he fought you off from unbuckling him, basically?
Yes.
All right. So now that the use of hands approach has failed, what is the next approach you all decide to take?
Deputy McCowan draws his taser.
And is there additional conversation with the defendant at this time?
Yes, I informed the defendant that he didn't step out of the vehicle or something the case.
And how did he respond to that?
He was not willing to step out of the vehicle.
All right. And eventually, did you observe that taser being deployed?
Yes.
What happened when the taser was deployed?
So, in the tasers that we carry, we have two sets of probes. Two probes are deployed when the taser is fired. So, Deputy McCowan deployed his taser, two probes were deployed, and Mr. DeHart was able to pull those probes out by the wires.
So it was a bad contact upon initial deployment?
Yes.
All right. What occurred after the bad contact?
As soon as they were pulled out, essentially as soon as Deputy McCowan fired the taser, the probes were pulled out by Mr. DeHart, and then Deputy McCowan fired his second set of probes, and they made a good contact.
All right. And in conjunction with the second set of probes contacting the defendant, was the defendant doing anything?
He walked up.
Okay. And so you have a good contact. So the taser is now effective. What is your plan as far as extracting the defendant from the vehicle?
So I still have to remove his seatbelt at some point so that I can pull him out of the vehicle.
So what did you do?
So, while the taser was being deployed and he was incapacitated, I forgot to add that I believe Mr. DeHart shut the door after the first bad contact with the taser. The door was shut. When I went in, I still had to get a seatbelt off, get him out, so I opened the door while the taser was being deployed, reached in to grab the seatbelt, and I got wrapped up in the wires, so I got tased as well, and I was fully incapacitated.
So you were feeling the effects of the taser as well as Mr. DeHart. All right. Once, how long does a taser typically go for?
5 seconds.
All right. Once that 5 seconds was up, what did you do?
I stepped away from the vehicle to kind of gather my composure and catch my breath. And Deputy McCowan continued to deal with it.
All right. Did Deputy McCowan eventually reposition himself?
As soon as I stepped back from the vehicle, Deputy McCowan repositioned himself to where he was sort of standing diagonally facing the defendant, but his body was sort of next to the driver's side mirror.
And did something occur at that point in time?
Yes,
What was that?
I was shot and so was Deputy McCowan.
Did you see what had happened?
I was on the ground. All I heard was the gunshots. I didn't ever see a gun being pulled out.
All right. Do you know where were you shot?
In the leg.
And what was going through your mind at this time?
I didn't know where I had been shot in the leg. I just felt pain in my right thigh. I knew it was somewhere in my thigh. I fell to the ground immediately, and everything kind of slow motion. I couldn't get myself up, and I thought, I took a breath, and I accepted death, because I thought he was going to fire at me again. He had an advantage over me. He could have shot me in the back of the head. I thought he was going to.
Were you eventually able to get back on your feet?
Yes.
Where was the defendant when you were doing this?
He was still in the driver's side of the vehicle.
Once you got back on your feet, where did you go?
I ran behind Deputy McCowan's car and drew my service weapon.
All right. Is he still the car motionless at this point, or has he started to move?
I believe he had started to move when I was at the back of the vehicle pulling my gun out, and he drove around the tree in the yard and drove through the yard to exit.
All right. And what did you do as he's pulling around? Is he driving back towards you at this point?
He wasn't driving, well, he was driving back towards my direction, but not at me.
Okay.
He was driving back towards Seville Road, going diagonally towards Seville Road, and ended up turning right to go back towards Maryville. But
What did you do as he was passing you?
I moved up to the front of Deputy McCowan's vehicle, so I got a good vantage point. I fired 3 rounds from my service weapon, and He turned right on the Sevierville Road, the way we were facing. He turned right on the Sevierville Road, and I still had my gun out, but I knew that I couldn't shoot anymore because I had a line of cars and I didn't want to get anything.
So you fired the 3 as he's heading towards the Sevierville Road, but chose not to shoot additional rounds because there's other traffic there, basically.
Right.
All right. Deputy, was your cruiser equipped with a dash cam video?
Yes.
And were you likewise equipped with a body worn camera?
Yes.
And do you know if Deputy McCowan's cruiser was equipped with a dash cam video?
Yes.
And do you know if he was equipped with a body worn camera?
Yes.
And have you previously reviewed all 4 of those videos?
Yes, sir.
And do those videos fairly and accurately represent the events that occurred that night?
Yes.
Karen, at this time I'm going to ask to play those videos.
insurance number, so it's probably not because you were all over the road.
Oh, sorry, I'm tired. Put my hair up.
Put your hair up?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you had anything to go cruise that time?
No.
Okay.
I'm looking at just leaving so.
Okay.
Just got back from Got birthday, man.
Cool.
Just got a phone with my son. I said, son, you should have came home because he hurt his knee was back at the GP game. And I literally just got a phone with him.
Okay. Did you go to the game?
Yeah, we just got done. They're still there. I literally can show you. I just got a phone with my son.
I believe you. Where are you headed to tonight?
I'm on my way home.
Where you live at?
Alcohol.
Okay. You can have to see your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance, please? Alright, thank you. You need a caramel cookie?
Yes, ma'am.
It's man. What are the flavors this week? Do you know?
Coconut. Coconut. I can't tell you.
I got you. You're fine.
Mama, listen.
Yeah, well, you went across the line just a little bit. I thought, well, maybe.
I was just putting my hair up. I'm sorry. I was putting my hair up.
I got you. Yeah, you were all the way to the other lane.
I kind of remember I say, man, I'm not going to make it tonight. I got to go get clothes. Like, I'm just dealing with a lot. I promise I didn't do nothing. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry you're going through some stuff.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But I literally just got from my son, just talked to the guy that's painting, sent me a picture of some lights that he sent me.
Okay.
I literally just got a phone with him.
Okay, good deal.
I paint my own house, he just sent me it.
I got you.
And I called him back, but I'm on Bluetooth.
Okay, you're good. Do you have your registration insurance?
Yeah, I'm in my mama's car. I'm in her car. My truck is in her house. I show you what I just done, so you can know what I'm doing. I ain't lying. I just left to take a video.
Yeah, I'm coming forward tomorrow. I got you.
Just took a video.
Yeah, I got you.
This is a real one. Literally just jumped in her car. So her video her house.
I got you.
Just got them in the pain.
Yeah,
I literally just left. I just
Okay.
don't go to bed.
Okay.
But, is this it?
Close enough for registration. What about your insurance? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll let you call around, we'll go check this out, and I'll come back up here and talk to you about the insurance when we figure it out, okay? Hey, so car smells like weed, and he was in the opposite lane on Seville Road. Pretty sure it had DUI, but I think it's weed, I don't think it's alcohol.
How much for the rate?
4951, I'm right here next to Destiny Lane.
Destiny, a little bit better. Are you just on 13 or left side?
What side are you on?
I'm on the hospital.
I'm up here, towards out of town, towards Burton Station.
Okay.
If you pass Alfred, come on past Alfred McCowan, you'll see the lights.
I'm on board you.
Alright, thanks, brother, I appreciate it.
You will?
See you.
Thanks.
335. I had a motor call, will you check Knox's here, please? A bunch of them?
They're all formers.
Okay, I got you.
You said, go ahead, Lamar, you go ahead.
Hey! Hey, my name's Shelby. I work for the Blount County Sheriff's Office. Nice to meet you. Nice to hear you. I'd say nice to meet you, but we're not next to each other.
She said she works for Blount County, and I like some Blount County.
Hey, I don't think I do, man.
She works.
Okay, I got you. Oh, I understand. We're all right here next to each other. I get it.
I got one, they're all.
Yeah, just all the ones. Okay. Well, I said, come sit down for help. I'm gonna leave this half with you. I'll take this one. Yeah, it's okay. I understand. It happens.
Well, long as you want to attack and something should show up, right?
It doesn't come back with the tag. A lot of times it will come back with the tag. It didn't come back with the tag. That's the only reason I'm asking for it.
There's
That hat. There's the old ones.
what you saying, Lord? The insurance, it's okay. I don't know. I just put my hair up and she said I swear, so I'm sorry.
Here we go. Let's see this. See what we can figure out.
She said you probably turn my head tired, but run my hair down good.
Yeah. How many kids you got, bro?
5.
5?
Yeah.
That's too many.
And I just let my 15-year-old game and he wanted to stay and watch the varsity.
Yeah.
And he had therapy in the morning. I just had surgery on my knee.
Oh, goodness. Well, that's not good.
I just literally just got him out until I heard it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna just bring her clothes tonight. I'll bring them in the morning.
I got you.
I don't know. I guess I can just hand her all this stuff.
That's okay. I'm not too worried about it. I got you. You got like 15 insurance cards.
Yeah, I'm
So you're
really
good.
perfectly fine though. I'm really just going home.
Okay.
I don't want to take a sit down and lay down. I'm not doing no problem.
I got you. Well, I'm gonna tell you this. I am gonna have you step out, hang out with me.
Step out for what?
So I smell weed in the car. Have you ever smelled weed in this car?
I don't smoke it.
Okay, you don't smoke nothing? Has anybody ever smoked it before?
Nobody. This is my house girl.
Okay. I got you. Okay. Well, smell it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have you step out and hang out with me. Okay? My partner's gonna get here. We'll search as long as everything's good. I'll get you home.
There ain't no weed in here. Nobody smokes weed. Don't do me like that now.
Okay. Don't do like what?
She trying to say she smells weed. That's why I'm like, you know I don't smoke weed. Nobody I don't smoke weed.
Okay. I didn't accuse you of smoking weed.
Kids, backpacks, and smoke. We literally just
Okay. Okay.
exactly. It's good to live there.
Okay.
Like it's me, man. My own black, and they just being messy.
And ain't got nothing to do with that, bro.
I guarantee you what a dog right here is going because I'll be on this floor.
Okay.
So I'm gonna sit right here.
Our dogs don't get hit on weed, and there's not a dog coming out here. It's me and my partner.
Well, I'm refusing to
No, there's no refusing. So when I smell the odor of marijuana, I have probable cause to search
Yeah,
it.
I need to get a search, man. I'm refusing to search.
There's no refusing.
There's no weed. Go get your partner. Tell him come over and sniff.
Okay. My partner is not a dog. My partner's a person.
Okay,
That's on the way. Okay, that's fine. You can't refuse a search.
Why can I refuse to search?
Because I've got probable cause to search the vehicle because of the smell.
And why
Okay?
they trying to be messy for no reason?
I'm not trying to be messy with you, brother. I'm trying to make this easy. Okay?
I'm just refusing to search. I love you, Mom. Yes, ma'am.
What's going on?
I don't know why you're doing this, ma'am. I'm just trying to go home. I literally just left your house. I literally just took a video so I can show you everything that everybody did with the paint and everything in the toilets, and they just pulled me over for no reason. They seen my fucking hair put up like I'm black with dreads, and they pulling this mess for no
It ain't
reason.
got nothing to do with that. I couldn't see when I pulled you over.
Nobody smokes weed. I don't smoke weed. I've never been around weed.
Okay.
That's
I didn't say you did. I didn't say that you smoked weed. I said it smells like weed in here. I didn't say you did.
Dog, I love you.
Okay. out of the vehicle?
I'm refusing to search.
Okay, so step out of the vehicle. Step out of the vehicle. Come back here and stand with me.
I'm not.
3:35. I don't want to refuse you to get up for.
I need you to get
Step
it
out.
out. Just get it out.
I don't have a dog. I don't have a dog to
Please
get.
get it out.
Okay? And if I have a dog, it doesn't hit on me.
I
I'm
don't
telling you.
smoke weed.
Okay, I didn't say you did, brother.
Okay, you're not
I said it smells like weed in your car. I have a probable cause to search your car. Can you step out
I'm
for me?
not.
Step out for me, Kenny.
Bullshit. No, I'm not. Baby, the police got me pulled over. They threatened me to get out the car. I'm not getting out the car.
Can you just get out the car, man? I'm not trying to make this difficult.
You are making it difficult.
I'm not making it difficult. I'm not being racist. I'm asking you. I don't have a dog,
Tell
sir.
these folks I don't smoke weed.
Okay, I didn't say you smoked weed.
I don't smoke weed.
Kenny, I never accused you of smoking weed.
Lord, you said I gotta get out this car. I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
refusing it.
Yeah, I am saying you have to get out of the car.
I'm refusing it.
You can't refuse to search. I have
I
probable
can't
cause to
even
search.
say I have a dog. You can't just say you smell weed.
Yeah, that's how the law works, Kenny.
No, it don't.
That's how the law works, brother.
I'm down here on River Road, baby. Like, this is not right, man. I'm really not doing nothing wrong on any.
You're on the wrong side of the road, brother.
Baby,
You're on the wrong side of the road. That's why I stopped you.
baby, I ain't doing nothing wrong.
Kenny, man, I just need you to get out of the car,
I'm
brother.
not getting out. I'm not getting out the car.
I'm not getting to step out assembly. I don't have a dog to get,
You
brother.
could have just gave me a ticket and said, yo, I don't smoke weed.
I don't have a dog to get here, okay? I don't have a dog to search your car. I do not have a dog. I can't help you there. You know, I'd like to have a dog. I don't have a dog.
Down here, baby. I'm on some River Road, baby. Just come down some River Road like 10 minutes.
I just need you to step out of the car, man.
I'm refusing to search.
Okay, so here's what's gonna happen if you don't step out of the car. We're gonna have to drive you out of the car, and then you're gonna go to jail. So you can either step out of the car, or I can pull you out of the car. You can step out of the car, or I'm pulling you out of the car, Kenny.
She asked you to get on the car.
Get out of the car, bro.
I said it smells like weed. I need you to get it out, please.
No, we don't have to have a dog.
Get it out.
It smells like weed, brother. Get out of the car.
Marijuana in this
Okay.
car.
I'm gonna tell you one more time, Kenny. Get out of the car.
I can't, man.
You can't?
I'm recording this.
Okay, you can record. That's fine. I'm recording too. I recorded this whole interaction. Go ahead and get out
I'm
of
not
the
doing
car.
nothing wrong.
You were on the wrong side of the road,
I
Kenny.
was not on the wrong side
You
of
were
the
on the
road.
wrong side of the road, brother. Get out of the car.
Side of the road.
Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
I'm not. No, I don't trust my car.
Get out of the car.
No, you can't do that.
Get out of the car.
You can't do this, man. You can't do this. Get your hands off of me, man. Please get your hands off of me, please. Please get out of the car. I'm asking you, please.
Get out of the car.
I'm not doing nothing wrong.
Now.
Please, I'm not doing nothing wrong. Get out of the car. Please, can I ask you something?
No, get out of the
Please.
car. Out of the car.
I'm not doing nothing wrong. Get out of the car. Why y'all doing this to me, man? Why are you doing this to me? Get out of the car, man. I'm not doing nothing
Get out of the car,
wrong.
Kenny.
This is not my car. I'm not doing
I didn't say
nothing
push the car. Get out of the car, Kenny. Go ahead, Kenny.
Out of the car. Get out of the car.
sounds everywhere. I'm shot. I need help. I'm passing out. I need your help. I need someone to help her. Help me twist this, please. Twist it really tight. Twist it again. Oh my God. Okay, twist it again. Twist it as hard as you can, okay?
I got you.
That's good. Put it in the thing.
It's there.
Okay. Oh my God. 345. And I was having to turn to get a blood. And I was having to go to 24. So it's so smelling. And I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna be the bird. Are you okay? Yeah. Okay, go away. Give me my paper. Give me my knock. You need to sit down. I need to
Get the truck.
you need to sit down. You need to sit down. You need to sit down. 335 is where's your number?
Ricky.
Come on in, please. 335. Got time to get a plow, 344's down. I can't get to him. He's not.
He's not breathing.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not here. I already made it back up.
Yeah.
It's like your other places in over here. That's how I feel. I hear something. Those are done. I think I'm going to go unconscious. 344's down. I can't get to him. Okay. I'm right here. I'm okay. I'm okay. Take care of Greg. Take care of Greg. Take care of Greg. I can't further. I think that's her own. It's her own. It's right here. You can either step out or I can
You don't step out the car.
No, sir.
You will get out the car.
Racism, man.
Your man says, I don't care what they're going to do. She gave you a lawful command.
I don't smoke marijuana. She said,
She asked you to get out of the car.
Get out.
I said, it smells like weed. I need you to get a dog, please.
No, we don't have to have it all.
Get a dog.
It smells like weed, brother. Get out of the car.
Marijuana in this
Okay.
car.
I'll tell you one more time. Can you get out of the car?
I can't, ma'am.
You
I'm
can't?
recording this.
Okay,
I'm
you can
telling you
record.
right now.
That's fine. I'm recording too. I recorded this whole interaction. Go ahead and
But
get
I'm
out.
not doing nothing wrong.
You were on the wrong side of the road,
I
Kenneth.
was not on the wrong side of
You
the
were on the
road.
wrong side of the road. truck, brother. Get out of the car.
Stop the road.
Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
I'm not gonna draw some refusal. Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do this, man. You can't do this. Get your hands off of me, man. Please. Please get your hands off of me, please. Please. Get out the door. I'm asking you. Get your ass out the door. I'm not doing nothing wrong. Out of the door. Please, I'm not doing nothing wrong. Get out the door. Please, guys. No. Please. No. I'm not doing nothing wrong. Get out of the car. Why y'all doing this to me, man? Why you doing this to me? Get out of the door, man. I'm not doing nothing wrong. Get out of the car, Kenny. This is not my car. I'm not doing nothing wrong.
I said, where's your car? Get out of the car, Kenny. Go ahead, Kenny. Out of the car. Get out of the car. Tell me the board.
Thank you. Deputy Eggers, how many times were you shot? And how many exit wounds did you have from that shot?
I have 3 wounds. I have an entrance wound with my right knee and 2 exit wounds on the outside of my right eye.
Deputy Eggers, thank you. Pass the witness.
Garner?
Thank you. I'm Matt Garner of the Public Defender's Office. Mr. Elrod and I have been appointed to represent Mr. DeHart. I know these are disturbing questions. I'm simply trying to find out the details of various things that happened. Some of my questions may seem a little foolish, but I'm legally blind and I can't always tell from the films what happened, and I can't drive, so some of these questions relate to that. Where were you headed that night on Sevierville Road?
I was headed back towards town. It was actually close to even just dinner break, so I was going to do something.
So you were just on a routine patrol.
Yes.
What brought your attention to the vehicle that Mr. DeHart was driving?
The way he was driving.
Can you describe it for us, please?
Yes, so the videos of this example, but I witnessed the vehicle swerving within its lane, and then I witnessed the vehicle go left of center just a little bit, and then after a few minutes of it going back and forth doing that, I witnessed the vehicle go all the way to the opposite side of the road where the driver's side tire was close to the fog line on the opposite side of the road.
Was there other traffic around at that time?
Yes, sir, there were cars coming in the opposite direction.
So was his driving endangering other people in your opinion or not?
Yes, sir.
I take it you have been trained in stops for driving under the influence?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us some of the signs of a person's driving that indicates he might be driving under the influence?
Going slower than usual, maybe under the speed limit, not being able to maintain their lane.
So at that point, you decided to stop this vehicle. Why?
Because of him going left of center.
Okay. At that point, did you think he might be intoxicated, or were you simply worried that he was endangering other drivers and violating the law? Okay. So when you came up to him, we could see it on the video, but one thing we can't tell is you said on the video more than once that you smelled marijuana coming from somewhere in the vehicle. Is that correct? Could you tell if that smell, aroma, was coming from Mr. DeHart or simply the vehicle in general?
No, sir. Just, it could have been Mr. DeHart or the vehicle in general.
But you didn't know. But how strong was the odor?
Strong enough for me to notice it.
You've already testified that you have been trained in DUI arrests. What signs on a person are there that they've been intoxicated?
You can tell a lot by the eyes most of the time. They don't tell very much by Mr. DeHart's eyes. To be honest, I wasn't focused on his eyes, I was focused on his hands, his movements, things of that nature. But their behavior, the way they act, the way they speak, sometimes if they're under the influence of some type of depressant, they're going to speak slower, have slurred speech. However, Mr. DeHart seemed very excited. He seemed nervous about something and was immediately pretty defensive.
So you couldn't tell anything from his eyes, and you couldn't tell anything from his complexion, obviously, and that's one of the things you look at, isn't it?
His complexion?
Yeah,
Maybe if his cheeks are flushed?
if it's flushed, but you can't tell Mr. DeHart because he's so dark, I take it. You'd never seen Mr. DeHart before, so I take it you couldn't tell one way or the other if his speech was slurred. At what point during that video did you decide that he was probably under the influence?
As soon as, not the first contact that I had with him, but after we got the vehicles positioned safely, when I began to talk to him, I thought that he may be impaired. Just off of the way he was acting, he was very erratic, very excited about something.
Okay, so based upon the smell of marijuana, the erratic driving, and the nervous, excited way that he was behaving, you thought at that point he might be under the influence.
Yes, sir.
Now, what is the regular thing that you do when you determine a driver's under the influence?
I try to talk to them, ask them, where they've been, where they're coming from, if they've had anything to drink, any impairing drugs, anything like that. I like to be straightforward about that, because a lot of times people will be honest. Another thing is pulling the person out of the car to perform standardized field sobriety tests.
Did you form an opinion as to whether Mr. DeHart was being honest with you when you were talking with him when he was inside the car?
I didn't have an opinion of whether he was being honest with me or not.
But you did think he might be under the influence.
Yes, sir.
So it was your intention that he get out of the car so that he undergo like the one leg stand and the walk and turn and those standardized field sobriety tests.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And he refused to do that.
Yes, sir.
It looked like that you continued to interact with Mr. DeHart for what, 4 or 5 minutes maybe until Officer McCowan arrived?
Yes.
Now, can you explain to me how a taser works, what it is, and how you operate it and what it does?
So the simplest explanation I can give you is there are probes. There are 2 probes fired out the end of the taser. Those probes make contact with wherever they hit on your body with Mr. DeHart. It was chest, stomach area, and there are wires connected to those probes that send electric signals through the wires into the person's body. And it has different effects on some people than others. For me, personally, it completely incapacitates me. It incapacitates me and it hurts. It hurts. It feels like your muscles are trying to jump out of your body is the way that I would describe it.
So basically, it's a gun-like thing that shoots these wires with the probes on the end.
Yes, it's a less lethal device.
Right. And if I could tell right from the video, that was used twice,
3 times.
3 times. All right. What happened after the first use of the taser?
So when the taser probes were, when the first set of probes was fired from Deputy McCowan's taser, Mr. DeHart was able to grab the wires and pull the wires out, so it did not have an effect on him. However, Deputy McCowan fired his second set of probes from his taser, which made contact with him and successfully incapacitated Mr. DeHart.
And Mr. DeHart was wearing a seatbelt, correct?
Yes,
So you couldn't just pull him out without having to undo the belt.
correct.
Okay, so what happened after the third deployment of the taser?
So during the second deployment of the taser, I attempted to get inside the car and take Mr. DeHart's seatbelt off of him so that I could pull him out while he was incapacitated so he wouldn't be fighting against me. And my arm got wrapped up in the taser wire, and so I was as well incapacitated.
All right, so the taser had to be deployed again.
Yes,
All right. After you got incapacitated, if I understood your testimony correctly, you went from the side of Mr. DeHart's car over to Deputy McCowan's car. Is that right?
I was right next to Mr. DeHart where my legs would be touching. I was right in front of him, and once the 5-second cycle of the taser was over, the one where I was incapacitated as well, I took a step back, and I stepped sort of behind Deputy McCowan. He was standing facing the driver, and he repositioned himself to where he was facing the driver diagonally, and his body would sort of be in line with the driver's side mirror.
So he was kind of in front of Mr. McCowan toward the front of the car beside the mirror.
Yes.
Is that right?
Mr. DeHart was still in me.
Okay, and where were you at that point?
I was, I would say in line with the V pillar, but I'd step back a couple of feet because I stepped back to regain my composure so that I could get back in it.
So you would have been, what, 8 or 10 feet away maybe, or something like that.
Probably not even that far, maybe 4 to 5. I don't know, 4 to 5 feet from the vehicle.
I understand you're just making an estimate, and this happened very fast. And did you see Mr. DeHart pull his gun out?
No, sir. I heard the gunshots and I was immediately on the ground.
So you don't know, you had not seen the gun before?
No.
And
I
you
did
don't
not
know
see
where-
the gun in the vehicle.
You didn't know where it came from?
No. It came from inside the vehicle, but I don't know where in the vehicle.
Do you know how many shots were fired? I heard several in a very short period of time. It sounded like 3. Does that sound right to you, or is that not right?
I believe it was 5.
Okay. Do you know which shot hit you? The very first shot, right? Do you know which shot hit Deputy McCowan, or were you able to see it?
Was not able to see. I believe it was the second one, but I did not see on scene.
So I mean, I take it, a shot like that, if it hits you in the knee, you just fall down totally unable to see anything else, basically. Is that right?
Yeah, when I got hit, my body kind of turned where my back was facing the vehicle, so I kind of turned with both hands. So my back was to everything happening.
I guess it's been a year or 2 ago, I fell and tore up the tendon in my knee, and I just remember being on the ground and not able to see or think about much of anything except what had happened to me. So did you actually see much of anything happen from then on?
I heard everything happening. I was eventually able to gain my composure, get back on my feet, and do as I was trained to do. I could not see everything happening behind me. I ran behind it from the gallon vehicle, and then I was able to see everything.
But, and at that point off, Deputy McCowan was on the ground.
Yes.
So, you talked to your partner. Was your partner still in the car during all this? Didn't you say you were riding with somebody?
No, when I was saying my partner in the video, I was referring to Deputy McCowan.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry. So you called dispatch and they sent someone and... See. For what it's worth, Deputy, I have no further questions, but I thought you handled a difficult situation very well.
There's no redirect, no redirector on it. Step down back outside. Call your next witness.
So it calls that Agent Maria Cutshall.
Come up, please. Let me read this witness. Solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Be recorded, and verified.
Agent Cutshall, if you would spell your first and last name for us.
Maria, Cutshall, Cutshall.
And where do you work?
I'm employed at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
What's your job there?
I'm a special agent.
All right, what kind of law enforcement experience and background do you have in training?
I've been in law enforcement for 23 years. I have an associate's, bachelor's, and master's degree in criminal justice field. I've had multiple trainings throughout the years in my career.
And how long have you been with the TBI?
7 years.
And what are your job responsibilities as an agent with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation?
We conduct investigations on basically
how'd you become involved in this particular case?
I received a call from the Assistant Special Agent in charge the evening of the 8th, around 8:50 p.m., and requested that I report to the scene. He had been requested by the District Attorney, Ron Desmond.
And do you know why it was the TBI was requested to assist in handling this investigation?
We're often requested in death cases, and especially we work most all officer-involved shootings in the state.
And obviously we have an officer involved shooting in this particular instance, right?
That is correct.
So did you respond out to the scene there on Sevierville Road that night?
I did.
And what were you doing that night specifically?
That night, there were several agents that were called out. We did different tasks, and what I did was I interviewed 3 of the people that were in their vehicles that were sort of in line from traffic, and that was one of the first things I did after trying to gather some preliminary information and obtaining some of the Deputy McCowan's gun.
Okay. And in fact, let me ask, you're the lead investigator in this particular case.
I am.
But you're not the only person from the TBI that was working that night or had been working during the manhunt either, right?
Absolutely not.
How many would you say? Just,
Dozens.
okay. And in fact, you all split some job responsibilities in terms of interviewing various people.
Absolutely.
So you said you'd interviewed 3 that night. Do you remember who it was you interviewed?
The scene witnesses that I interviewed was Elijah Tarwater, who was the homeowner of the residence which driveway this incident occurred in at 4953 Seville Road. Leslie Richardson and a Jose Lewis.
And Mr. Lewis, not an English speaker, right?
He was not.
Did you have some assistance in interviewing him?
I did. I used a translator.
And the 2 people who were depicted, you've seen the videos even before today?
Yes, I saw him that night.
Okay. The 2 people who are depicted, I guess the Good Samaritans that are there, that are assisting, that are on the video, those are not, you didn't interview the 2 of them.
I did not have another agent interview them.
But they were interviewed by, it was a TBI agent?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know, as a part of y'all's investigation, were shell casings recovered?
From the scene?
Mhm.
Yes.
How many were recovered, you know?
Let me know that I did not work the crime scene. I have seen an ongoing list of the evidence recovered.
Where is it? The evidence that has been recovered, where is it located?
Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
Okay.
Marshal Office.
All right. What was recovered in terms of shell casings?
We recovered in total 6 .40 caliber spent shell casings and 2 9mm spent shell casings and 2 live 9mm.
Shells.
They were live rounds.
Okay. As it relates to Deputy Eggers' weapon, what kind of weapon did she have?
She and both Deputy McCowan carried a Glock 45 model, which is a 9mm weapon.
Okay. So the 9mm casings and live rounds that you recovered, that matches the calibers that would have been used in that weapon.
That is correct.
And then the other, the 40 caliber shell casings you recovered, have we recovered any type of 40 of them that would have been shooting that type of weapon? Or excuse me, that type of ammunition?
There have been several guns recovered. In this case, there's been several search warrants executed at different locations, and there have been I know there's been a gun and a box of a 40 that was recovered in different locations.
Okay, do you remember where those were recovered from?
I know that the box of the 40 caliber was at the Kerry Matthews residence, and there was I believe there was one found at the Linden Avenue address where he was arrested on the 13th.
Okay. And you've mentioned Kerry Matthews. Who is Kerry Matthews in this, as it relates to this particular case?
He's the she's the fiance of Mr. DeHart.
Okay. That particular night when you responded out there, did you have a chance to speak to or go to the hospital where Deputy Eggers was at UT?
I did not speak with her that night. Another agent did.
Okay. And she was then subsequently interviewed by the TBI later for a lengthier interview, I believe.
That's correct.
Were you a participant in that interview?
I was not.
Did you respond to, I believe, Deputy McCowan was taken to Blount Memorial Hospital?
He was.
Did you respond to that hospital that night?
I did not. He had already been pronounced deceased.
Okay. Did you attend the autopsy of Deputy McCowan?
I did.
If you could, where was that conducted?
The Knox County Regional Forensic Center.
Who conducted that autopsy?
Dr. Dorinka Malusi.
All right. And were you present for that?
I was.
Were you able to observe what kind of, if any, gunshot wounds were present on Deputy McCowan's body?
I did see gunshot wounds on his body.
Could you tell us and describe for us, for the court reporter here, could you describe where those wounds were located?
There was one on his right side, but if you were looking at him, it would have been to the right side of his nipple. And there was also one on his left lower abdomen.
Besides those 2 gunshot wounds, did you see any other injuries?
There were other wounds that were on his body, yes.
Okay. Was there anything recovered from inside his body?
There were 2 intact projectiles that were recovered
Where are those now?
at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
Are those being examined?
They will be, yes.
And do we have any test results on those
We
yet?
have no test results on anything at this point.
Okay. Now, I know the search for the defendant went on for a prolonged period of time before he was located, I guess 5 days, right?
Yes.
And during the pendency of that time, was the Lexus that's depicted in the video, was it located?
It was.
Do you know when that was located?
It was located later that night. The address, I believe, is 4102 Franklin Hill Road.
Is that here in Blount County?
It is.
Was he in it?
It was not.
Do you know who processed, was it processed?
It was processed.
Who processed that vehicle?
Another agent at TBI.
All right, and where is the vehicle now?
It is at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
Okay. Do you know if anything was recovered from inside that vehicle?
I know that there were several things that were recovered. One of them have mentally noted are the 40 caliber unfired bullets, 9mm magazine, fired projectile, taser probes and wires, and shotgun shells.
Okay. Was that vehicle, did you observe or do you know if there were bullet holes in that vehicle?
I know that there were. I don't feel comfortable testifying how many, as I was not there for the vehicle processing.
Okay. Were you present, once the defendant was taken into custody, did you have an opportunity to see him once he was taken into custody?
I did. Once he was taken to the Blount County Jail, he was immediately taken up after he was looked in and processed. He was immediately taken up to their detective division in an interview room.
Did you go to that interview room?
I did.
Were you there by yourself?
I was with another agent,
Which agent was that?
Special Agent Brandon Elkins.
Did the 2 of you attempt to interview the defendant that I guess it was that day?
We did.
How did that go?
He immediately stated that he would like to have an attorney present.
Okay. Did he make any other statements?
He made a few statements. No questions were asked. He made a couple statements initially that he regretted not staying at the ball game with his son, and he regretted turning down that road.
Did he indicate he regretted shooting the officers?
He did not make that statement.
That's all I have right now, Agent.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Agent Cutshaw, my name is Matthew Elrod. I'm one of the assistant public defenders here in Blount County. If I ask a question that you're unsure of or that you don't hear clearly, please just stop me or get my attention, and I'll repeat myself, or we can go back and clarify what needs to be clarified. First, I want to talk about. I couldn't help but notice during your examination by General Jenkins, I assume that you have notes that you're referencing or looking at to refresh your memory. Are those notes that you've made and reports that you've made in the course of this investigation?
Those were notes that I have made in the last day.
Sure.
Just for court purposes.
Okay. Within the last day or two, or over the course of a couple of days, that you've been making those notes?
Since last night.
Okay. That's something that you did, though?
Yes.
Okay, that's something you prepared because you wanted to make sure your memory was correct and recalling things being asked here in court, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And without them, I bet it goes without saying that sometimes we need to write down notes to jog our memory to make sure we accurately and truthfully tell a fact or recall a fact, correct? Okay. And so without those, you would have been at a disadvantage, or you wouldn't necessarily been able to do that 100%, you thought? Okay. Your Honor, pursuant to the 80 Rules of Evidence 803, number 5, recorded recollection, as an adverse party, I'd ask that notes that she's been referring to in her testimony be admitted into evidence. I know the rule asks, and we're allowed to recite that and read that into the record. I'm not asking to do that now, but I do want to make that as Defense Exhibit 1.
We're not objecting,
Thank you very much, and let's talk about. I'll try to keep this in order from what we've seen on the video, what Deputy Eggers has discussed with us this morning. We know the reason for the stop. We know where it was stopped at. We know that Mr. DeHart was a suspect and looks like it was an ongoing DUI investigation. That's accurate. And according to her you've been present here for her testimony. She believes she had a likely impaired driver from things, according to her training and experience, that she's seen, that she was worried that she had somebody that might have been using or been intoxicated by some substance. We didn't hear anything about alcohol being detected, but she was concerned that marijuana was detected, right?
That's what she said.
Okay. Do you know, and this question might be better for talking about this stop, we saw in the video that the deputy, in doing some record checks and checking his driver's license status and checking his background or his warrant check, I'm assuming she used not only dispatch by radio means, but also she has access to databases and portals that might allow her to look and see if this gentleman is either wanted or what his license status is. Is that accurate? Sure. Okay. Do you know if those materials or those devices, I take it using her phone, the dispatch with the radio, I know those are recorded, but with regard to her computer or her phone, if she's using those items as record checks, is that something that y'all ordinarily would take into evidence, or is that something that you all have forensically gotten a copy of? Okay, you will. So that you've not had a chance maybe to do that personally yourself, but it's in the process?
Yes, a lot of the items, well, most of the items have not been tested.
Sure.
Or forensically examined at this point. It's still very early on.
Right.
Many search warrants will have to be written to do those things, but those will be done.
Gotcha. And do you know if, I take it the same would stand as true for Deputy McCowan's, those items belonging to him or issued to him by the department, if he were to be using those? I'm not sure what he was or wasn't using that night, but those items would likewise be somewhere held and collected to review if needed?
Yes.
Okay. You said that you've had 23 years, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, as a law enforcement officer, 7 of which has been with the TBI. Before that, were you in a local or a sheriff's department, a city police?
I worked both at the city and a county.
Okay, where were those agencies?
The city of Sevierville.
Okay,
That's where I began my career in 2001
gotcha.
to 2004. In 2004, I became deputy at the Sevier County Sheriff's Office.
Gotcha. Okay. So you've seen a whole lot of things and done a whole lot of things in your 23-year career. There was some discussion, and we've seen the use of the electronic control device or the taser. Do you know what model taser we're talking about?
I believe it's a 7, but I would want to certainly reflect to the evidence.
Gotcha. Do you? Sure, that's okay. And if you don't recall, that's fine. Let me know. Do you know the brand name? Was it an Axon, or do you know the brand name of the taser?
I believe it's taser.
Okay, you think that's the actual name of it? Okay. And is that, I know that you said that Deputy McCowan and Deputy Eggers' firearms were taken, and that's being held by the Bureau of Investigation for testing and for evidence purposes. Were any tasers, and specifically Deputy McCowan's taser, was that something that you all have in evidence as well?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know is this a model that I think a lot of them, when they're fired, when they deploy those darts or those probes, ID tags come out?
Yes.
Is this one that does the same?
Yes.
Okay, so it essentially fingerprints what gun fired that specific probe or set of probes?
Yes, it gives the time. I believe it gives the time date. There's a report that would be generated from those items.
Sure, that was my next question. I think that in some way or fashion, either you can download it from the device itself, or the tags seem to suggest a date and time stamp of when that thing is fired, when it's been used. Is there also, are you aware of, does that device tell you how many times it was activated? So, and I'll make sure my question's clear. The probes are fired, as Deputy Eggers has said. They didn't get the reaction they needed to as far as incapacitation of Mr. DeHart. Fires again, the darts make good contact, like the deputy said, and then there's a couple of occasions where 5-second bursts are being used. That you would agree with that? Is there something inside the device, or is there something that you said it gives a report that tells us how many times and the duration of those usages, or?
The report should generate how many cartridges were deployed as well as how many electric shocks were deployed.
Okay, all right. And I guess I should probably ask this too. In your law enforcement career and with any of these agencies that you've been with, you're familiar with those devices, the control devices, the taser?
I'm somewhat familiar with them.
Okay. Have you ever been trained with them, or have you ever been deployed or used one yourself?
I have, but it's been 20 years.
Sure, I understand. But that's something that you, at that point in time, and I'll try to keep it pretty simple with my questions about it. What is it designed to do? Just, and I'm not looking for a scientific explanation. If you've got one, I'd love to hear it. But I'm just wanting to know, what is it designed to do?
I don't go have answer on that.
Okay.
Because like I said, it's been 20 years since I've had the training.
Okay. So you don't remember why you were issued that specific weapon in your during your duty as a law enforcement officer?
It was used as a less than lethal device.
Sure, that's what I'm looking for. And you would agree with me that it's being used as a device to get somebody compliant, make somebody do something that they're unwilling or shown unwilling to do?
Yes.
Okay. And that's used, and I think Deputy Eggers said her personal experience with it is it incapacitates, it freezes you, and it hurts.
Yes.
Okay, that we understand that. That's something that you can recall, that those are things that the device does, right? Okay. Do you remember in training, and it's okay if you don't remember, just let us know, were there individuals that were suggested you don't use it on, or you do use it on, scenarios that play out that you might want to take extra caution before you use that device?
I do not recall.
Okay. Do you know, or do you remember if there were any cautions or concerns in your training about its repeated use or extended use, meaning more than one time, more than 2 times, more than 3 times? Do you remember anything about that?
I do not. When I was trained, it was very early on when police officers first began to get those. And I believe that, technology has changed, and so I do not have the answer to that.
Sure. And like you stated, it's early in an investigation. Do you all have an approximate, or anything that's been measured out as far as that you've heard from other agents or yourself in relation to how far away that these shots from the taser were made or done, or where, or later on, have you determined where on Mr. DeHart's body that those darts actually made contact?
We have not determined that.
Okay. Do you know if when he was brought into custody, do you know if pictures were taken of Mr. DeHart?
They were taken by the jail staff.
Okay. Specifically by the Blount County Sheriff's Office, not necessarily TBI agents.
Correct.
Okay. And after that original, booking, any attempts at trying to get any pictures or anything like that of Mr. DeHart? Okay. You stated a little bit ago that some of the things that were recovered at the scene were 6 total, and I believe you said these are spent .40 caliber cartridges, shell casings, correct?
Yes.
6 total of those. You also recovered 2 9mm caliber spent shell casings and 2 live rounds, same 9mm. Okay. It's okay. I don't expect you to remember this. Do you, I mean, were there brands on there, there's stamp brands on the shell casings?
They're aware, but I don't have the evidence listed.
Sure,
for me.
it's okay. Those are all in evidence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I know you stated that you didn't personally work the crime scene. Do you know if any agents have thus far or are continuing to work on trying to retrieve the lead round or the metal round? I won't necessarily say it's all lead. Some of them are a combination of different metals, but have there been any of those rounds, the actual projectile recovered from that scene?
From the scene, no, there was one recovered in the Lexus, and there were two recovered in Deputy McCowan's body.
Okay. Do you know the caliber of those rounds that were the ones that you've located, the actual projectiles? That's still being tested by the Bureau of Investigation? Okay. You stated that the deputies both were issued Glock Model 45 9mm, and you stated that there have been, I think you said that there's been several weapons seized or taken into as evidence in trying to determine and test those things. How many weapons did you say in total that you all have collected thus far?
I don't have that number.
More than one?
Yes.
Okay. And that was according to search warrants that you all have had issued through, I guess, you and other agents as well?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall what residences those search warrants, other than Miss Matthews, you said that was one, was a search warrant issued for the Hemlock address in Alcoa?
There was.
Okay. Do you know if anything was recovered there?
I don't have that list.
Okay. But you do recall that there was a .40 caliber box, and what else did you say that was recovered at Miss Matthews' address?
Well, what I had written down, this is not the complete list.
Sure, I understand.
From Carrie Matthews' residence, it's a Glock 357 pistol, and then the .40 caliber pistol box.
Okay. Do you know what brand of pistol box that belonged to?
I believe it's a Smith & Wesson.
Okay. But the box led you to believe it at one point in time enclosed a .40 caliber pistol?
I'm sure it originally did.
Right. And I know that you stated that rounds were recovered from Deputy McCowan. Also, was the round or rounds recovered from Deputy Eggers, her wound? Do you know?
They were not recovered.
Okay. Do you know? I think you stated that the Lexus rounds were recovered from that vehicle as well. Where was it located, or finally recovered or located? Do you know?
I did not process that vehicle, so I'm not comfortable answering that question correctly.
Okay. But TBI agents recovered that vehicle?
That's correct.
Okay. You don't, and was it located within the state? I'm not asking for a specific address, but do you know, was it located in Tennessee?
The Lexus?
Yes. Okay. You stated that 3 individuals that you interviewed, Mr. Tarwater, I believe Ms. Richardson, and Mr. Luis, those are individuals that were in the line of cars at some point in time during this incident. Okay. Do you know if those people are local residents? Were they just passing through?
They live in the city.
Okay. And did you record those statements that you or your discussions with them, your interviews with them? Okay, those are recorded. Do you know if, with the other individuals that were interviewed, both the citizens that stopped by to help the deputies at the scene, as well as further interviews that the special agents have done, are those normally recorded?
They are.
Okay. So it would be a surprise, or would be against policy, or be out of the ordinary for those interviews for there to be interviews that exist that weren't recorded by you all.
Things happen sometimes,
Sure.
but generally speaking, if it's a substantive interview, we will record it.
Gotcha. Were you all recording? You said that you made an attempt to speak with Mr. DeHart, and in the criminal investigations, the sheriff's office interview rooms, they record those videos. Did you record as well? Okay, is that just a handheld on your phone or a handheld device?
Use a handheld device.
Gotcha. Do you know if any evidence was recovered from the, I know you said you didn't process it, do you know or have you been made aware that any evidence was recovered significant to the investigation from that silver Lexus?
Yes, I discussed that earlier. I have a list of some of the items, but not a complete list.
Okay. What did you include on your list that you of note that was recovered from that vehicle?
6 unfired .40 caliber bullets,
Mm-hmm.
a 9mm magazine, a fired projectile, shotgun shells, and a taser probe, the probes and wires.
Okay. The 9mm magazine, was that loaded, or did it have rounds in it, not have rounds in
I
it?
did not have that noted.
Okay. Do you have any idea how many search warrants have been issued and in this investigation?
I do not have that complete list. It's
Multiple. Okay. Does it also include different vehicles?
houses, vehicles, cell phones.
Sure. What about social media? Do you know if you all have made any judicial subpoenas or?
Reservations have been made on those.
Okay. Mr. DeHart's been charged with first-degree premeditated murder. You're the affiant on those offenses, right?
That's correct.
And I'm assuming that that's been done, or you make that decision in conjunction with the district attorney's office. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. In this case, I'll take it maybe step by step and talk about trying to think about this a timeline. At the point in time, we'll talk about from the initial stop. We'll talk about the first time Mr. DeHart stops on the Sevierville Road, and the officer's first interaction with him to simply pull ahead, pull up. She does that twice. He finally pulls into the driveway. You've go so far so good where you're with me as far as where I'm at. At that point in time, are there objective facts that you can point to that we can tell the court about that leads you to believe that he'd formed the intent to kill either of these deputies at that point in time?
Well, I'm going to object. That calls for a legal conclusion. The facts are what they are. She's testified to the facts. The video is the facts. Any legal conclusions that might be drawn from the facts are argumentative, and we'll be making that argument here shortly, and I'm sure the public defender's office will be happy to make the counter argument to whatever we make. But asking her to draw a legal conclusion based on facts is speculative on
Your Honor, I'm not asking her to draw a conclusion on whether the man's guilty, innocent, or any other type of legal conclusion other than to point the court to objective facts, so facts that the court can decide that this man's case should be bound over as charged with premeditated murder. I'm happy to read out, as an attorney in this court, I'm happy to read out the statute and what the elements and requirements are. The court has to take those into consideration, and facts that lead the court into knowing whether that is the case or not are pretty important. It's not a legal argument.
Your Honor, he is asking her to draw a legal conclusion because he's asking her which facts are relevant to the determination of this particular legal conclusion. She can testify to the facts. The facts are on the video. Her trying to conclude what the state's argument might be about which facts are evidence of premeditation is again asking her to speculate.
I'm going to sustain the objection, Mr. Elrod. The court has stated that the fact is, of course, familiar with the statute, and if the facts lead to the conclusion that the charges should go forward, the court will announce it. If it doesn't, the court will.
I want to make sure I'm clear the court's decided that that's the court's ruled on it thus far, as this case being bound over.
Not understanding your question.
You'll have to forgive me, I don't understand, me asking about facts that lead this officer to conclude that charges be lodged against the defendant. That's the simple question that I'm posing. I'm not posing a legal argument for this witness to put forward a legal argument. I'd like to hear from her as to what facts constitute this offense.
He's asking her, Your Honor, specifically to say what the state's position is as it relates to the legal conclusion that the facts support the charge. That's what he's asking her to do. If he wants to ask her about any fact that she observed on that video, which we've all seen, by the way, he's asking her to testify to what we've all seen. That's asking her to speculate about what the state's argument is about the basis for the charge of first-degree murder. We have arguments about that, and again, we'd be happy to point them. We can't argue about anything that's not been introduced into evidence. We can't suggest anything about what's been introduced into evidence. All that's relevant for determination about probable cause is what the court has heard and seen here today. She can only speculate about what that argument is going to be. And frankly, her opinion is irrelevant in terms of which of them we're going to think is conclusory or suggests that it is a first-degree murder and an attempted first-degree murder.
I agree with the state, Mr. Elrod.
I understand. In thinking back and watching that video, you've watched it multiple times, correct? Okay. In watching that video, at what point in this timeline can you point out, before the shooting takes place, any aggressive behavior that Mr. DeHart exhibits?
He refuses to comply.
Okay.
Get out of the vehicle after being asked several times. He tussles with the officer, as she stated, when she was trying to get his seatbelt off.
Okay. Does he curse her?
I don't think he does.
Does he hit her?
He does not hit her.
Does he hit or curse Deputy McCowan? Okay. Does he relay to them by any means, orally, written, or any other type of communication, his intent to do them harm?
He does not.
He doesn't do that.
No, at that point, he was just resisting to step out of the vehicle.
Sure. And at the point through which the taser's deployed, it's doing what it's designed to do. It's shocking him. They're trying to incapacitate. They're trying to get him to comply with him. During that course, does he exhibit any of those behaviors that I just asked you about?
That's when he tussles with the officer. That's how she described it, I believe.
Right, resists and just, I think, if I'm accurate, she says that she keeps him from, he keeps her from getting the seatbelt off, and she's not able to get the seatbelt off to roll him to get him out of there.
It is hard to see in the video,
Mm-hmm.
so that's very important in Deputy Ayers.
Right. So he doesn't specifically tell either of the two deputies that he's going to hurt or harm them, or he wishes to hurt or harm them.
He does not say that.
Okay. When you interviewed him or attempted to interview him, and I know you said that he made some statements during that point in time about remorse for different things, did he state to you at any time then his intent to hurt, harm, or kill either two of these deputies? Okay. Are you aware of any other witnesses that have any information with regard to statements that he's made as to those type of statements?
There were multiple interviews made. Those reports are not complete, so I don't have the completed reports on those.
Sure, but so in other words, we don't know quite yet whether he's made statements or anybody's come forward to other agents with regard to statements he may or may not have made about this incident.
I do not have those reports.
Okay, that's fair. And it's okay if you don't know the answers to some of these questions, just let me know if you don't. obviously, the offense, alleged offense occurred on, the 8th of February. Mr. DeHart was not, taken into custody, I believe, until the 13th of February. Is that accurate? So during that time, I'll call it a search or call it a manhunt. I think we've heard that referenced here today. It was publicized quite a bit, correct? Okay, and that's not only to, one, keep the public apprised of a relatively important thing in the community, correct? But secondly, they're actively trying to search for this man. Do you have any idea how many times that that law enforcement reached out to publicize and to get that message out? Do you have any idea? I do not. Okay. And yeah, with that, I don't suppose you would know what agencies, what news organizations and agencies they were trying to seek out and get that message and get the word out.
I do not know.
Okay. In the search for Mr. DeHart, did you have any? I know that you said there were dozens of agents involved in the scene processing, interviewing witnesses, as well as searching for him. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Were you involved in the search and trying to track him down as well?
Very little. There's actually 2 cases that TBI has opened. We have the top 10 fugitive case, which is handled by another agent, and then the auction law shooting, which is handled by myself.
Okay, I got you. And that's how you became involved, because the firearms were employed not only against deputies but by deputies.
Correct.
Okay. I guess that you said you was the top 10 fugitive list. What deputies involved? Is it Agent Elkins?
No.
Who is the other?
It's Special Agent Ed Israeli Gill.
Okay. Do you where's he stationed or based out of? Is it Knoxville?
He's out of Knoxville.
Okay. All right. What other I know there were multiple, not only just local. What other law enforcement agencies were assisting in not only the manhunt, the search for Mr. DeHart, but also in processing and working the investigation? Well, I'd like to ask it in 2 different ways. One, do you know all the agencies even involved with the search for Mr. DeHart?
I do not know all of them. I do not have a process.
Gotcha. It's fair to say that multiple state agencies and multiple federal agencies?
Yes.
Would the same be true in the agencies that were assisting in the actual investigation, meaning processing, interviewing, working and going through the case to make a prosecutable case? Is that same would be true?
TBI was responsible for the auction law shooting,
Mm-hmm.
and we will be the ones that conduct that case. I'm sure that Blount County will have their own internal investigation that they will do for themselves.
Gotcha. Have you had an occasion to interview any of the co-defendants? I'll call them co-defendants, the folks that have been arrested subsequent to this shooting. Have you yourself been able to interview those folks?
I spoke with Carrie Matthews.
Okay, you interviewed her. How soon after the shooting was that? Did you remember when that took place?
I believe it was, she's been interviewed several different times by several different agents. So when I interviewed, I believe that it was the very next day. It could have been 2 days later.
Do you? Sure, that's okay. What pertinent information did you glean from that interview with her?
We were just trying to see if she had any information about where he would be.
Gotcha. Did you any success with that?
Not really.
Okay.
She named several friends and people that he hung out with and family members. But
Gotcha. Have you interviewed or had the occasion to interview any of Mr. DeHart's family or friends? Some of that short list that she gave you. Have you had an occasion yourself to interview or talk to any of those folks?
other agents did that.
Gotcha. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, before you expand on these, you guys see your notes in one, exhibit 5.
state's case for probable cause.
Garner, any proof on behalf of the defense?
No proof.
Any argument, General?
Very briefly, Your Honor. Frankly, Your Honor, the state was gonna let the video speak for itself, but since the question regarding facts that might constitute premeditation has been raised, the state has one theory it will proceed on, Your Honor. And what the state will lay out the video shows is after shooting Deputy McCowan and Deputy Eggers 5 times, as Deputy McCowan is lying prone, disabled on the ground, and Deputy Eggers is fleeing for safety, the defendant opens the door of his car, sticks his gun at a helpless man on the ground, and pulls the trigger. The state will rely on those facts for premeditation. And the state will say that based on that, probable cause has been made. I made a tally as I was watching this video, and I counted 37 times they either asked lawfully or told lawfully the defendant to exit the vehicle. But General Jenkins counted 45. It doesn't matter what the number is. If one of those requests is complied with, Your Honor, it's just one of those times the defendant complies with the request or order to step out of that vehicle, we're not here on a first-degree murder. We're not here on attempted first-degree murder. We're here on felon possession of marijuana, or felon in possession of a firearm and maybe a marijuana charge. It was his decisions to refuse those requests 37, 45 times, whatever it is, that led to us being here today, Your Honor. And you do not point a gun at 2 individuals and pull the trigger 6 times unless you intend to kill them. You do not point a gun at a man lying helpless on the ground and pull the trigger unless you intend to kill him. So respectfully, based on the video and the facts before the court, the state would ask this case be bound over to the grand jury.
Yes, court please, I think state clearly made out cases in counts 2 and 3, and we have no objection to them being bound over. On count 1, as Mr. Elrod has already had colloquy with the court about, we question the state's premeditation theory. Clearly, there's second-degree murder. Clearly, it was killing. It was out of with any justification. There's no any doubt about that. The question is, did this man plan it ahead of time? We suggest, court seen the videos, they're the best evidence. Court seen the videos, we suggest there is no premeditation. It happened at the spur of the moment. He did it. We suggest it should be a second-degree murder case and ask it be bound over on that charge.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Based upon the proof before the court finds that there's probable cause to believe that the offense of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and felon in possession of weapons committed by the defendant, Kenneth DeHart, was committed here in Blount County. Accordingly, charges will be bound over to the grand jury for its determination of probable cause. Go ahead and remove the defendant, please. General, I'm going to give you back the original exhibits, but you're going to make sure.
I will make sure they get a copy right now, Your Honor.
You have the sheet. She'll have a look in a moment, and let them talk with him.
That's fine, I'll take that sheet back there.
I mean, I kind of,